Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trace and Theo with Ade and Joe. Uh, we have a packed session for you today. And before we quickly jump into it, here, I'd always like to ask, how have you been, Joe? What's up? What's up with you?
Yeah, Ade, I've been good. Been working on a few interesting cases. Actually back a few in the Bitcoin world. Haven't done that in a while. So, yeah, that's been interesting and done a few events. I was in Vienna for Basel Institute of Governance event. Met a lot of really interesting thought leaders in the industry, and yeah, it was good to see some familiar faces, a few people that I haven't met in person before, and but I'd been in touch online, obviously. So, yeah, it's been a busy few weeks.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I think is the Vienna conference also related to the UNODC, or it's a different one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were one of the sponsors too in Europol.
Oh,
Hmm.
oh yeah, cool. Yeah, that's like convergence of every law enforcement agency within the ecosystem. That's nice. Okay, yeah, I think it's straight into the conversation because we actually do have quite a couple of stuff to discuss, and we are taking a little bit of a different approach with our podcast. And for guys that are listening in on Spotify, you would get a video if you have like a video enabled option on your Spotify. You'll be able to see what we are sharing. But for guys watching us on YouTube, you'll also be able to see our screen. So, but yeah, we're trying this out, and hopefully it is what we will keep doing over time. Our first conversation of the day, basically, it's something that has been within the ecosystem for a couple of weeks right now, possibly a week or so, and that is Balancer, that was exploited for more than $100 million. I think it's an interesting case. According to this specific article, the attack was exploited a subtle rounding error vulnerability within Balancer's V2, um, allowing attackers to drain funds through micro gains. And that was like in a lot of different smaller transactions. But like, yeah, do you want to share more on like what exactly happened?
Yeah, I mean, most people listening probably have heard about this by now, but some interesting, I guess, just context was, yeah, DeFi hack from Balancer. They're a pretty respected protocol. They've been around for, yeah, I think since ICO days, like 2017, 2018. And I think this version of their Balancer pool, I think it was the version 2, has been around since like 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
The good news is they have a version 3 and a lot of liquidity is tied up there. But this is an older smart contract, and that was a little bit alarming to folks because this bug essentially has been sitting out there with a very established protocol for several years, and it's also been forked by a number of projects. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting how every security researcher and security firm wants to publish, where the bug was and what happened. But yeah, I think sometimes people should be a little mindful if that's going to also expose other protocols. So I thought that was an interesting point. Of course, maybe most people know, but it was audited by some of the most respected auditing firms in Web3. So yeah, I don't know if I should name names, but yeah, I mean, really went through a rigorous test to make sure there's no bugs. And yeah, at the end of the day, there still was one. It was definitely a obviously like edge case bug. I think it just had to do with like a rounding error, a mathematical error in
Yeah.
the logic of the pool logic. So yeah, I mean, it does. I think it shook the industry pretty good, and a lot of people on like crypto Twitter saying, this is going to set back DeFi, 6 to 12 months and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the cool news is these exploits seem to be less frequent, but when it's to an established protocol like Balancer, it always kind of, raises some alarms. So 20 million dollars worth of assets were recovered, which is pretty good. So I think it dropped the like original stolen amount from like 124 to about 100 million, or a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And that was done by a protocol called Stakewise. Actually, I've used them in the past, did most of my ETH staking through them. Nice
Mm.
guys. And they were able to freeze and burn uh, funds through a control mechanism on the smart contracts for two wrapped type of token. So like a wrapped derivative version of Ethereum, and then a wrapped derivative version of Gnosis on the Gnosis chain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really interesting. This is something that other teams have done in the past. I think Mantle did it with the Bybit hack and recovered quite a bit. But it also brings to light like the not so censorship resistant features of DeFi that some people think are automatic, and they're not.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are these control mechanisms in place on smart contracts and protocols to do a certain like freeze, burn, and then remint type of feature. And it is really interesting if you look at the chain of events that Stakewise did. They did a good report on it on their Twitter feed. I'd recommend anyone to look at. We can link it in the comments. But yeah, what's interesting is they do this and then they make a vote in their DAO to say, should we get rid of this control mechanism and this ability to freeze and burn funds? So
Mm-hmm.
I found that really fascinating because you just used it and recovered a lot of stolen money, but then I don't know, you're ashamed that like it exposes the fact that maybe your protocol isn't censorship resistant, and therefore you want to now get rid of this feature after it just like did something positive for you. So that's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I don't know what your take is on that, but
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a two-edged sword. Like, if it gives an opportunity for people to, yeah, decentralization, be able to use decentralization at the same time in certain instances where there is a possibility of recovery due to like cash that goes beyond uh, the the victims are control, then I think it's a good thing. But yeah, I think like there's that very nuanced group of people that don't even like want any form of like recovery feature because there is the opportunity that it can be misused. So I get the arguments, right, and which makes sense to be honest. But I think something also which I want to touch on is like just yesterday also the Balancer team also mentioned that they were able to secure $4.1 million with the help of Seal. So Seal is a non-profit body that sort of like I won't say oversees the ecosystem in terms of security posture, but they tend to do a lot of security audits and trying to put security in place for specific smart contracts or protocols. And I think they have this particular um program that they call White Arbor, I believe. I think Balancer is one of them. So it's very easy for them to jump on the Balancer exploit and then figure out a way to sort of like secure the funds where possible. But I think there's something you mentioned initially which I wanted to kind of also touch on. And that is like what I see in this issue generally is with the problem of uh for me, I don't think there is ever going to be a 100% secured ecosystem, be it a protocol, be it a solution, whatever the case may be. And if there are like continuous vulnerability assessment done even multiple times a year, something will still be missing. Maybe not missing per se, maybe just like there is nobody has thought of a new way to logically exploit that specific system, and I think that is what happened in this case. So I would, if I, and for those guys that says like this is going to take back DeFi by 6 months, like a couple of weeks ago we had like 20 something $billion wiped off and nothing happened. It seemed like it was just like another Friday.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, and these exploits happen, they're not as notable because it's not the same amount of value or a notable protocol. But yeah, and I think Vitalik's reported a lot recently how exploits have become less and less, and actually DeFi is getting to this secure moment where it can go like to the masses and to more people and do more
Yeah.
serious things. Um, but yeah, I mean, this definitely shows that it's not 100% there yet. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. And I do find the whole like debate about censorship and the ability of smart contracts to do those sort of things interesting because I mean, it's not like there's one controller of the smart contract that just can
Yeah.
click a button. It's through a multi-sig process. There's like
Hmm.
7 emergency multi-sig signatures involved. They had to have like a big meeting and get all those people on deck and on
Yeah.
a consensus to do something. So it's not it's like through a sort of war room type of management and vetting system.
Yeah.
It's not like just some random dudes or some mafia like coming in and controlling it. So I don't know. Like it's good to see funds recovered, and it's only really ever been used on these large known situations for that thing. I
Hmm.
don't think anyone's used this control mechanism to like do something nefarious or something
Yeah.
malicious. So, anyways, I think that's a really interesting debate. I mean, especially the fact that you just did it, it was successful, and now you're getting rid of that feature. So, a little bit wild. I think I should report a little bit more on that, but
Yeah, I think
yeah.
you should. Yeah, you should. Cool. I will definitely still keep learning more about the balance high exploits, and obviously for the frozen funds, we get to see. Sorry. For the stolen funds, we get to see what is being done with it on chain. I think we'll still have more episodes that will talk about this specific exploit. So moving quickly to one of our topics, right? And I think this one is we've talked about this in the past. There's just like an update in it, and I think a couple of episodes back, we talked about a specific individual that was arrested in UK who was holding uh kind of like an humongous value of Bitcoin and then was seized. Well, basically the specific individual what's the name again? Kian Jimin, who was like the architect of a large scam in Southeast Asia, including China, ran to UK and then has been in UK for a while. Caught,
Yeah.
assets seized, and now the individual has been sentenced to 11 years and 8 months, 8 months rather, for laundering this process of scam. Yeah, what's your take on this? I think this is kind of like a good outcome. We don't get to see more. Well, if you remove SBF, like I don't think there is quite a lot of like uh results like this when it comes to cases. Yeah, what's your take?
Yeah, a little bit of justice. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like she's in Berlin, Germany in that photo where I'm from. But yeah, no, overall good news. I guess like 11 years is appropriate. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of crazy too cuz like in China there's like people being put to death for like those scam compounds and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
maybe lucky her that she's getting prosecuted in the UK.
yeah,
But no, it's good to see some justice served. Yeah, I mean that's my probably a big takeaway from it. I guess she was like wanting to, they found documents that she had aspirations to be like a monarch of like, it's called like Liberland, some self-proclaimed micronation, like nation between Croatia and Serbia or something like this. So yeah, she really like was cartoonishly like a villain.
If you have
But yeah,
5 billion, you can think of anything. That's you can decide to build a nation for yourself. Like that's a lot of money to just think of any idea that comes to your head. So yeah, I won't put it past her.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if you saw, like, I guess they released the video when they stormed and arrested her, which was really
Yeah.
strange, I thought. Because supposedly she was like living in or bought some like super expensive penthouse, but the videos looked like she's in some single room like
Y-
apartment or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. It was a bit weird.
So I
Uh,
think like the backstory to that was initially there was like I think they've been sort of like trying to get her for I think since 2016 or thereabouts, where one of her aides tried to use a part of the Bitcoin to buy like a villa in UK, and then they
mm.
couldn't basically prove the source of fund, right? So from then she kind of just disappeared and then went underground. But yeah, years later they caught up with her in that. It was a very yeah. I saw it. I was like, wow, this is not a way to live life. This is this is not a way to live life. But yeah, it's interesting. I think like for I think one other thing on this specific case is the fact that like with regards to the now she has been sentenced, we'll hear more about like the forfeiture process itself. And I think there's going to be like another form of legal battle on that front with regards to who actually should be giving the assets. Should it be the Chinese government or the UK is going to figure out a way? Like it's going to be a mess. And I think we mentioned it the last time that it's going to be a long one. So yeah, I think that's like an update on that. And yeah, quickly jump into one very interesting case, which I saw very recently, and I was wowed when I read this topic. And basically, FBI cannot be blamed for wiping out Drive with $345 million worth of Bitcoin in it, says judges. Just to give a context to this, so a man was convicted of identity theft who claims his hard drive had over 3,000 worth of 3,000 Bitcoin was seized and the FBI wiped it. And so he sort of like came back to after he was released from prison and he got hold of his devices and all. Then he claimed that the FBI had wiped his hard drive containing 3,400 BTC. And apparently, prior to that specific case, he told them he had just like bits and pieces of Bitcoin on it. And they kind of just took his word for it. And then, like, yeah, there's nothing on this thing. And then they wiped it off. I think there are two sides to this story. Number one, yeah, whatever the judges say, that's not my I can't argue it. But I kind of feel like it's also it sort of says a little bit about certain things when it comes to like what exactly are the steps that people take when it comes to asset recovery, even for like the government, right? Like if someone is telling you they have like 2 BTC on a particular wallet address or in particular drive, it's begs the fact that did you actually verify one before you even take the steps of having to clean up the drive, right? So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Yeah, the person had
yeah.
lost 3,000 BTC, but I don't think it's even their funds. Well, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, was there due diligence from the part of the law enforcement? What's your take?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, if it's not, if it's like stolen funds, then, wouldn't be so upset, except for the fact that the victims won't get it back. But I don't know if that's clear in this story. It sounds like he just had it and no one really knows where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had it legitimately. I mean, if that's the case, then, that's his property. It should belongs to him.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't even know what, like, this might be a dumb question, but like when you wipe so he's like wiping a ledger or something, like, and like, how do you do that? Because then it's still on chain on that address, isn't,
Yeah,
like,
so the address is on chain. the address is on chain, the asset is on chain, but a way to claim it, which is basically the private keys, cannot be recovered. So there are different approaches that you can actually like wipe a drive such that you can recover. So it's either you write over it, so you can write multiple times over it, and then after that, like it becomes like practically impossible to recover the first write because it's more or less like you're writing on a slate and then you're writing over it, you're writing over it. So the first write up won't be recognizable anymore. So like there are different ways. And as far as sometimes depending on how you want to dispose off of that specific drive, you can even burn it. So there are multiple steps to actually cleaning off of drives of certain data, right? But in this case, like everybody would, if I'm sure, like maybe the address was sort of like mentioned in the court's release, but it's still going to be on chain. The address is going to be on chain. The funds will be there. It's just going to be part of those set of funds that cannot be recovered right now. And I think right now we are already at like around 10% of the whole of crypto cannot be recovered or something of that nature. So yeah, it's it's going to be part of those 10%. Oh
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I see. I
nearly
see. Yeah.
7%. Yeah, so nearly 7%. So which is like approximately 1.46 million BTC. Likely lost forever. So yeah.
I see. So wiping a drive really means you're getting rid of the private keys. Is really what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, the issue is I don't think they were so very much concerned about the private keys.
Hmm.
Because I think if they understand that there's like a monetary value of that nature, they definitely won't just wipe the drive. I think they are trying to wipe the drive off of other stuff that was on it. And by just wiping the drive, they also wiped out like the whole data because like you can't just wipe a certain part of the drive. It's just how you just kind of like wipe everything off totally. So yeah, it was kind of like I would say a mistake, but it was like an error that should have been avoided, to be honest. Because again, if you are trying to contain the data of a specific drive in an investigation, what you do is you copy it off that specific drive and then put it in another system that is being controlled by law enforcement. And so it's still part of like a chain of command, such that when you want to prove it in a law court, you'll be able to say, yeah, we've downloaded all of this data. It is within a specific drive that is controlled by law enforcement. And then we can say these are the stuff, these are the analysis we did on the drive and stuff. So there are a lot of loopholes in the process, to be honest. But I guess it's what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Crazy. I'm reading now more. Okay, so it's like a hard drive that he had,
Yes. Yeah.
not necessarily like a ledger or
No,
something.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
no. Yeah.
Uh,
Cool. So
yeah.
yeah, quickly moving on to a very interesting story, a little bit gory. This is about a Russian crypto scammer and his wife that were found dead in UAE after apparent revenge attack. So this victim, if I can call him that, Roman Novak was convicted for a multi-million-dollar scam in 2020 and had reportedly defrauded further victims since leaving prison in 2023. And it was found dead in a building, I believe, in UAE. He and his
Yeah.
wife, and it's a sad story, and it's also a story of uh, crime does not pay. Or how did they say that statement? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
apparently he was in prison like for another crime for like 6 years, and the moment he got out in
it continues.
2023, yeah, he got into, I don't know what he was in prison for previously, but he got right back on the crime train. So, uh, yeah, I think they were like enticed to meet with supposed investors like out in
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the desert somewhere, and
In Fujairah.
claimed to have
Yeah.
a, yeah, and yeah, scammed the wrong person, it sounds like. So, well, I don't know. That's true. I don't know if the people that killed him were people that were scammed, or they just knew that this person had a bunch of crypto and they wanted to like wrench attack
Mm,
them, meaning just like torch. Because I think they were like tortured to like,
yeah.
open up their hardwire wallets. Or
But if it's a range attack situation, right? I don't think it leads to, because a range attack situation most likely like you're looking for like a monetary gain, and if you have access to the wallet address or the drive and you discover like it's zero, does that equate to actually having to dismembering them and
yeah,
like yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it probably was. They probably were scammed, and it was probably more of a revenge thing than a
Yeah.
robbery.
Yeah, yeah, and allegedly, it's said that it's basically like a revenge from Russian nationals that is scammed in Russia. It's I don't know. It just doesn't sit right in scamming. I don't know how people get to go around scamming people. It's a crazy thing to do. Like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, they scammed the wrong people, that's for sure. These Russian
But
nationals were they were caught apparently, but ex like war veterans and not afraid to do what they wanted to do. So yeah, crazy.
well, there's no right person to scam though.
No, that's true. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, for sure. But definitely don't
Yeah.
scam Russian veterans.
I agree. Last topic, a very interesting one, which is a little bit more like politics. But I don't think it's politics. No. Let me quickly share a little bit of backstory on this. So, but before the backstory, according to the Economic Times, China accuses US of stealing 127,000 Bitcoin worth $13 billion. And they call the incident itself a state hack. And if you've listened to some of our past episodes, we've discussed Lubian itself. And after Lubian, we've also discussed the Cambodian conglomerate that the US sanctioned. I can't remember the name. I think it's Ming that US sanctioned the aid. And it happens to be that that's 127,000 Bitcoin. It's still the same thing that is appearing in this particular conversation because according to China, um, sparking a major diplomatic storm, the controversy centers on the 2020 arc of Libyan mining pool that lost more than 127,000 worth of Bitcoin, valued at 3.5 billion. And it seemed, according to like a cybersecurity agency in Beijing, they claimed that the act was not a cybercrime by outsider, but an alleged state-level operation conducted by U.S. intelligence. And this is also linked to the Cambodians U1 group that was sanctioned recently. So it's a lot of story in here. There is the aspect of how was the asset itself stolen, well, I would say stolen. How was the asset itself hacked? What I think we've discussed that in our last episode.
Hmm.
How the Lubian mining pool itself was hacked. What is the correlation between that specific Lubian stolen funds versus your one group, and now this is China coming out claiming that this is a state level sponsored operation. Yeah, I'm sure this story is going to stay on for like a long time. But what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the accusation. I don't think it's really proven yet, like how the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. government got their hands on this. You know, if they really did hack a uh, Bitcoin
The
wallet,
pool?
that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty crazy. I mean, it's suspected they might have been able to because I think it's an older version of
Mm-hmm.
cryptography and
Yeah.
key system. So, yeah, I mean, people have moved away from that sort of key system for a reason. So that could potentially be the case. And yeah, I mean, some people I've seen online saying like, "Oh, this shows that crypto is not censorship resistant." I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, the specifics here are important. The devil's in the detail. Like, it's an
Yeah.
old version of cryptography and uh, key setup. So that's not. I mean, if governments can just go in and like take people's funds from different wallets. You know, we want to have this whole blockchain investigation business. People, you know, you just be going around and like tapping into wallets. So I don't
Yeah.
think that that take is like super accurate. But I did see some of that this morning when I was kind of looking about it. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole, you know, I guess the Chinese government kind of needs to prove that this is indeed the case. But yeah, it smells like it could be. So I don't know, some geopolitical tension there. So
Yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna be like a lot of because 13 billion is, yeah, it's any
crazy,
government
yeah,
that gets hold of that is, yeah, it might be very small compared to the GDP, but a billion can still do so many things in any economy. So
yeah.
definitely something worth fighting over. But yeah, that is all we can take today. And yeah, we've shared a bunch of stuff. We'll follow up on some of these other cases. And hopefully you've learned one or two things. Drop your comments, drop your requests, and we will get to see you on another episode of Trace and Tell. Peace. Bye for now.